during retreats, a lot of times, if you want to make the experience a little extra, do the little details, you'll put like a package together for your attendees. And personally, I really appreciate when someone is mindful about what those things are and that they're kind of in theme with the whole like wellness, well-being, healthy and stuff like that. So I thought you'd be a perfect person to talk to since you have non-toxic candles. And I just, since I know you, we're friends. I know how important it is for you to lead a non-toxic lifestyle in general. So I trust that the hands that are making these candles are good ones. So yeah, let's talk about candles. Tell me
Let's
about Solstice Naturals.
let's talk about candles. One of my favorite topics. Thank you so much for having me, Krystal. Yeah, so Solstice Naturals is my beeswax candle line. I love using beeswax. It smells divine, and I'll dive a little more into the quality of beeswax and why that's so important. But it is like minimally filtered. It is from such a beautiful source. It smells like honey. So when it burns, you have that beautiful honey aroma infiltrating your home. Beeswax is actually known to be an air purifier. The way that
Oh,
it burns, it's so interesting. It
I didn't know that.
releases, it releases negative ions into the air, and they essentially adhere or bind to particles in the air. So that includes like dander, dust, mold spores, even. And it neutralizes them and essentially makes them fall out of the air. So it pulls them out, thus purifying
Mm.
indoor air, which is huge because more times than not, we're in our home with our windows closed, unless the weather is beautiful and you're, freshening your home and have the windows open. But typically, most people, have this like container of a home, everything is shut. So if you're burning, a more conventional paraffin or, in my opinion, even a soy candle with harmful fragrances or other additives, you're actually causing more pollution and damage to the inside of your home and by default to your health as well. So my candles are also scented with third party, like lab tested essential oils. So they are tested for their purity to make sure that there's no additives in them or any harmful chemical ingredients. And they smell amazing. And so you get all of the aromatherapy benefits of the oils as well as they burn in the candle.
Mhm. Let's talk about that because you mentioned soy, and I know even myself have been persuaded or just I have been led to think that
Mhm.
soy-based candles are a super healthy, non-toxic option. But why are they not?
So, if I'm being honest, part of me feels a little like hesitant or reluctant to touch on this. And I feel like because it's just so taboo, because you're right. I think soy has been touted as this really healthful alternative to paraffin specifically. I think that that's how it really came on the market. Like, okay, paraffin has been shown to be harmful. It is, if you're not familiar, it is a byproduct of the petroleum industry, heavily chemically processed. Like, it is not natural in any way or capacity. It's truly like burning plastic in your home.
And
And
you
I
can
think we're
smell it,
all aware. Yeah, you can smell
like
it.
when you
Like,
turn it off,
and like
especially.
the black smoke and the soot. Like, I think we're all pretty, or many of us are pretty well aware that that is not helpful, burning paraffin. And granted, people may still choose to do so. It's fine. I was just telling you, like, getting my nails done is my toxic indulgence, right? Like, we all have the thing. But anyhow, so when soy came on the market, that is, I believe that it's pretty greenwashed. And of course, that means like it's being touted as something safe and natural and organic, when in actuality, soy wax is also very heavily processed chemically as well. So you're using like hexane, butane, all of these really harmful carcinogenic chemicals to get this like wax product. It's not like, the soy plant is growing and then we magically get this wax right out of the plant, which I think is a really nice story that we'd like to believe, but it's not the reality. And then for me personally, that compounds with the fact that, pretty close to 100%, it's like 98 point something percent of all soy, specifically grown in the US, but arguably like globally that's grown is genetically modified, which
Yeah.
means that it's quite heavily sprayed with pesticide and herbicide as well. So you have that. it's just so full of chemicals, in my opinion. So it's not this like natural product that I think it's, labeled as. And then the other side of that is just, I don't know. I look at beeswax and I'm like, why would we be using anything else? It's like truly derived from the earth. It's so, I wouldn't say easy to source. Like it does require a tremendous amount of effort and like a large scale operation. I order between like anywhere from like 20 to 80 pounds at a time, depending on the volume that I'm expecting. And it's quite a bit. I forget exactly what the numbers are, but for like 1 pound of beeswax, it's like so many thousands of bees and like hours of labor and like hours of like actually scraping out all of the comb and the hive. So it's quite labor intensive, but it's totally worth it from a health perspective.
And how does it affect the bees?
So it's really important to source from like a very transparent quality family farm, as they're called, for full transparency and for integrity also. That way, you know that they're like treating the bees humanely, which I think is a lot of concern for people, especially within the vegan community. I hear a lot of that, like why they prefer soy because it's not harmful. And there are different ways. I am not a beekeeper. Let me preface by saying that. But my understanding is that there are, like anything else, different ways to harvest the comb and the wax and the honey and just tending to the bees, right? Like it's an art. Some people do use smokers, and I think that there are different ways to utilize them or like different, I don't know, different ingredients that you can put in that to create the smoke to smoke them out of the hive. Or it doesn't smoke them out, it like kind of neutralizes them and like causes them to sleep for a minute or so that the beekeeper doesn't get stung. And then you're able to go in and to remove everything without that threat. And there are some people who do not do it that way. They wear their full suit, they go in, like there's no, I don't know, no trepidation about it. But my understanding also is that there are other, like more harmful or aggressive ways to do it, which is true, I think, for any other industry, like where animals are being tended to, or, where we're taking something from them, if you will.
Yeah.
So it's just like a more humane way, I think is what I'm trying to say. So the families that I source from, they're third and fourth generation beekeepers. I have two companies that I primarily use. One is out of Massachusetts, the other is out of Ohio. There is someone in Georgia I like to source from as well. However, I will say that not only is the harvesting of it important for me, but obviously the quality. And what I mean by that is the way that they filter it. So when you open up the hive and you are like scraping out, because that's the process, you're like scraping everything out, you get the honey. There's obviously like the wax cappings in there as well, like that comb, right, that they build to harvest or to hold the honey in. But you're also getting the propolis, the royal jelly, there's pollen in there. So once all of that is scraped out, it can go a couple of ways. Some people will use harsher chemicals. So they're like cleaning with like the hexane or the butane. And I mean, you could even go all the way down to like a bleached white wax product that doesn't smell like honey. It's not golden. It's like highly refined. And some people do choose to use that, right? And again, like marketing comes into play here because that could be 100% organic, all beeswax candle. But what's the quality of the beeswax? And that's always my um, take on really any topic, especially in the realm of like wellness or non-toxic living, organic living, is like, well, what's the integrity? Like, what's really going on behind the scenes there? Is it really a high quality air purifying candle if it doesn't still have all of those like properties to it, right? If it's been like isolated into this like clean little refined thing. Um, oh gosh, I lost my thought.
That's okay. I loved the rabbit hole you were taking us down.
Yeah, I will go into several. But but yeah, so the importance of the way that it is filtered, I think is what I was touching on. So of course you can
Yeah.
go like to that end of the spectrum. But then the route that I like to take, I want it to be golden in color. I want it to have those air purifying qualities. I don't want any toxic chemicals refining it. And I want it to smell like honey. Like that for me is one of the biggest things. The other thing to know in candle making, if your beeswax is not filtered properly, so that's to say if it still has a lot of debris, a lot of pollen, a lot of honey, it is changing the consistency and the texture or like the solidity of the beeswax because it's quite solid at room temperature. So pouring beeswax candles is a bit trickier as far as like choosing a wick. The flame has to be like a little bit bigger and hotter than in a conventional candle so that it can burn it. So anyway, the companies that I choose, they filter their beeswax with water. It's like a water process. So they're just like um, straining it, and then there's like kind of a water wash, if you will, straining it again. I think it's like triple filtered, which is really nice. So you still have that beautiful golden block of wax, but there's no more honey, there's no more debris, and so the candle will burn much more cleanly and fully. Like you don't have as much tunneling or issues with the wick going out, for example. So those are kind of like two ends of the spectrum as far as quality of beeswax.
Yeah. Wow. This is why I wanted to chat with you because I know you were just going to be like, okay, little scientist of candles, let's just get into it.
There's so much, and every time I even start to touch on any of this, well, and then the wick, choosing of the wick and like the diameter of the jar, that's a whole other world too. And it's funny because anytime I even start to touch on this, almost everyone's response is like, "Wow, I didn't know candle making was so involved. I thought you just like put the wick, chose an oil." I was like, "Oh, well," and then you have to do the scent ratio and the percentage there too. You're just like, it's a
Yeah.
lot, like any art.
And why candles? Like, why did you choose candles as your thing?
Well, so I can do long or short version. I'll try to meet you in the middle. Um,
Okay.
so,
I'm going to take a sip of coffee for this.
so I don't know. I mean, really, that's the answer. It just is one of those like serendipitous things that just, sort of evolves. So you were around for the Bella Body days. That was my herbal skincare and apothecary company back in, oh gosh, I don't know, 2013. I think I started that. And that was a culmination of, I don't know, like 7 or 8 years of starting on this like organic eating, yoga practicing, like non toxic living journey, dabbled in like trauma healing and the yoga really intensely. And I think I just really opened up in so many different ways to what I don't know what it meant for me to live this like organic, conscious, like wellness lifestyle. So fast forward to 2013, I started Bella Body. Remember, like the face serum, the body
Yes.
butters, like, oh,
Some of the
everything was
best stuff on
infused.
earth.
So, like, everything was infused with some kind of organic botanical. There was like a calendula salve and like the rose oil, all the things. And I did that for many years, which I loved. And there came a time where I felt like I wanted to just segue, like it was like organically time for it to become something else. And so my brother and I at the time, actually, we started this company together and it was called something else at the time. I think this was in like 2016, maybe. I think it was called like Twin Flames Candle or something. I don't know if you remember this, but we
No,
we
I
were
don't think I
using
do.
we were using and I don't even honestly like remember how it came about. We just kind of stumbled about it brainstorming what organic product based business we wanted to launch as our new endeavor. And so that was born, and we landed on beeswax somehow. We did not choose like the greatest quality beeswax initially. We had no idea what we were doing, no idea about like the scope of the different oils, the different waxes. Beeswax, of course, in and of itself, we're like, oh, this is good enough, kind of a thing. And so started on that journey. We were using like mica powders to like mix into the wax to color them. So there was like a pink one, a purple one, a blue one, which was cute, but it just didn't quite work at the time. But yeah, so we worked on that for a bit, and then pretty shortly after that, my partner and I made the decision to move. So we left Miami and we moved to Georgia in 2017. That's where I live now. And I gave my brother the company. I basically just, left him with it, and it wasn't anything big at the time. Just kind of like turned it in and was like, okay, I'm gonna go off now and start something else. And I had my baby, started a family, so it was kind of in that while he founded Solstice Naturals. And I can't recall if we like brainstormed at the time wanting to change the name, to be really honest, but I know that it was born of solstice as a reference to the summer solstice specifically, and just being the longest day of the year, like this bright light, something like radiant, full of
Hmm.
light. Which is so beautiful, and naturals to keep it open in the event of expansion. We didn't want to call it like Solstice Candle Company, as far as it being more limiting, right? If we wanted to evolve or if I wanted to bring back any of the skincare, for example. And my son was born in 2018. I think late that year, or maybe it was the year after in 2019. We all drove down and I took back the company. I didn't take it back. I was given the company. We kind of like traded back, brother to sister, back and forth a bit there. And yeah, so ever since then I've been working on it full time on my own, and it's been great. It's been great. I hope to expand and to evolve it, and yeah, bring it out to more people, like help people realize the benefits of beeswax and why they should opt for my candles instead of like a Bath and Body Works candle, you know?
I immediately can tell the difference in your candles. I love how soft the scent is. And now, whenever I smell a conventional candle, it feels like, you just start going like, you know,
Yeah, I do know. And that's like when they're not even lit, right? So,
it's
and then
so
you're lighting
strong,
it, it's so strong. And you're right,
so
like you hit
strong.
on something too. The fragrances they're a huge problem. Arguably more harmful than even just the wax if it were burning on its own, right? And that's even before the fragrance is burning. Like if it's just still in the bottle, like smelling it, like how you walk by these stores or even like the perfumes or whatever. Excuse me. And yeah, like they are full of carcinogens, they are full of like endocrine and hormone disruptors, and um I don't know, they cause a lot of inflammation for many people, especially like in the bronchial tubes and just like in the lungs specifically. They trigger asthma and coughing fits in a lot of people. They trigger migraines, headaches, just feelings of like unease and not feeling well. They can be quite toxic, especially after prolonged exposure and use. So the essential oils that I source, they are all third party tested for heavy metals, for mold, for just like all the things, for impurities, of course, like to ensure that they're 100% essential oil, like they are what they say they are. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, and the scent throw is what it's called in candle making, like how strong the scent is much lighter. Um, just one by default, like they're made from pure organic plant matter, of course, whereas the fragrance oils are chemically derived, and so they can make them as strong or as light as they'd like to. And then the other point is that you can only add so much oil, whether it be fragrance or essential oil, to a candle without it becoming very flammable and like, a huge like fire hazard.
Yeah.
So, there is that limitation there, but I feel like I add the maximum amount possible for it to be like within a safe burning range and to have maximum scent throw, of course. So it is like almost about half of an ounce of essential oil for each like half pound candle. It's about 9 ounces in each of my regular size candles. So it's pretty significant.
And I think your candles are a journey. What I mean by that is sugar is a good example. I think maybe alcohol is a more globally relatable example. So I'm gonna go with alcohol.
Okay.
Let's say you drink a lot, right? And so you have a glass of whatever it is, and that may not do anything to you because you have so much of it in your system that you almost need to, yeah, you do need to detox yourself from it. And the same is true with sugar. When I started
Mm-hmm.
reducing the amount of sugar, I noticed that, you know, desserts that I would eat like it was nothing, after reducing the amount of sugar, when I would take a bite of that, I would be like, oh my God, it's a bomb of sugar. And I think the same thing is true with scents. When we're so used to this, like in your face, in your face, in your face, in your face, the subtle is hard to detect until you start reducing all of that intensity. And then the subtle is like this beautiful, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like so welcoming, it's nurturing. It's like, I want to smell more of it instead of, oh, wow, that's intense. Which you can,
Yeah,
as you start reducing that, you can smell right away the intensity.
100%. I agree with that. And I think it's true for anything that you're essentially like detoxing from, that's the reality of it. Like, I mean, and for these specific examples, everything you listed is arguably like a toxin of some sort, right? Like the body is overwhelmed and bombarded and not operating optimally when all of these toxins are in our system, right? And so, yes, for the olfactory, for our sense of smell, the same is very much true.
Hmm. Yeah. So, okay. I mean, talking about retreats, because that's what this channel is about, retreats. Um, I don't know, like the more ceremonial and the purpose, the intention behind a candle and lighting a candle and what it means and what it symbolizes. Like, can we talk about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. As soon as you said that, the first thing that popped up was like, yes, ceremonial. And for like, I don't know, all of human existence, pretty much. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but for like the majority of like humankind, we have had this relationship with fire, right? Like as this like source of energy and fuel to cook food, all the things. But there is something so like soothing and ritualistic about lighting a candle and like bringing that fire into our indoor space. There's something relaxing and calming and like nurturing about it, right? Like reading around
Mm.
candlelight, gathering by candlelight. There's a reason why that feels good to our nervous system. I feel like it's like very calming, very grounding. And so I don't know, integrating that into like a daily ritual for me personally has been really helpful as far as like nervous system work and just feeling more soothed, soothed and content and like finding a slower rhythm in life also. And so
Mm.
I think bringing candles into any sort of ceremonial space or like a secret space, because I even think like in a massage space, for example, or like a spa, it is
Yes.
super calming, not to mention the aromatherapy benefits, right? Like lending themselves in that situation as well. So for a retreat, um, I think it can be multi-purpose. So you can have the candles, like you mentioned, as this like favor or an offering to all of the attendees, right? Like this beautiful gift to kind of carry that remembrance into their own home experience by lighting that candle. And encouraging like the wellness benefits, like encouraging this non-toxic swap, if you will. Like, hey,
Yeah.
here's the nudge, like try this candle in your home. But then also for like adorning the space. Also, like having a candle burning like on the kitchen counter while everyone is gathering, or if you're doing journaling time or even in a yoga class, I find it super beneficial as
Mhm.
well. It's so therapeutic, really is the word that comes to mind for me. It feels so good.
And that's when in those spaces, like if you do a candlelit yoga class and you're doing it with candles that are non-toxic, that you can breathe. There's something that changes in the energy when you know that you can breathe easy and you're like, oh, this is safe to inhale and
Yeah.
enjoy.
And even, yeah, even like paring it back and going even more basic, it reminds me, I did go to a yoga class once. It wasn't like candlelit per se, but at some point, maybe in Shavasana toward the end, a candle was lit. Like the teacher did light a candle. And I thought, oh, this is so nice. I was not able to stay to the end of the class because it was, like a fragrance filled candle. And I started choking. Like I could not actually stop coughing. So I had to excuse myself from the class. I like every time I took a breath in, I was like, I'm gonna do this. Like it was not fun. It was not good. And then of course, I feel like it is doing a disservice to your students or your guests who are genuinely like wanting better for themselves, right? And they're being bombarded like unwillingly with these fragrances that are so overwhelming.
Hmm. And even like in a spa, like you mentioned, in a massage, in these settings where you are more mindful, you are
Mm-hmm.
more aware. And so those intensities hit you like a ton of bricks. When you're doing
Yeah.
deep breathing exercises and you're like, normally we're not deep breathing, but when we're breathing intentionally, all of a sudden everything just becomes bigger.
Yeah, and like even that example of like getting a massage, right? You're in the zone. It's like your defenses are lowered, you're really calm. And I feel like even, a loud sound is more jarring than it typically would be when you're like, you have all your senses about you. Yeah, totally.
Or even like I'm thinking of once I was asked to do this. candle meditation. Have you ever done that where you just stare at the flame?
No, I've had friends who have commented about like how healing it's been.
Yeah, it's really nice, but
Mhm.
you have to be relatively close to it. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't want it in your face, but you have to be kind of close to it.
Yeah.
And
You're
so
gazing.
the fumes or the aroma that it gives off is important because you're right there
Hmm.
taking it in.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Anyway, just
exactly in a case like that, you would want it to be something that's at the very least not toxic, right? But if it could be beneficial and therapeutic in some capacity, that would be ideal, right? And like that's the
hmm
thought process behind my line of candles. Like, okay, let's remove the toxicity from it. Like, let's get down to the bare bones ingredients, the materials. So, like, okay, the beeswax. And I do have, I call it the pure honey beeswax candle. It's unscented. It still has such a beautiful, lovely aroma to it. Like, still
yeah.
very soothing, very peaceful. But then you add in, for example, like a lavender essential oil, and like, bam, you're hit with like the relaxation, the calm, the ease, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's such an array. There, you can go so many different ways with it. Like the eucalyptus, for example, I light that every time I clean my house. It is just like this uplifting, like zesty, like, I don't know,
Mm.
energizing scent.
I don't think I tried the eucalyptus? I think
I know it
I'm
smells
not sure that
good.
I did. I know that I tried it was sunshine. Was it called sunshine?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
the summer
yes.
candle. It's like zesty and bright, has lemon and rosemary.
Yeah,
I
I
like to
liked
call
that
that one
one.
like a walk in the garden is what it smells like.
It was nice. It was nice. And the lavender one was really nice too. I think I've tried them
Mm,
both. But I want to try that
yeah.
eucalyptus.
Oh, it's
Sounds
delicious. And I
really
will
nice.
just like also briefly say, as far as like scent profile goes, it is so, it's been so fun to craft the scents, even with one single essential oil, right? Like if I'm not creating a blend, it's been so fun to see or to smell how that one oil pairs with the scent of the wax. Because again, it does smell like honey.
Mm,
Like there is a sweetness to it. And so it's almost like this synergistic like aroma that comes to life when they come together. So like the eucalyptus, for example, it's not as camphorous or like as harsh and like minty. It's a little
hmm
like subdued and like sweetened up a little bit with the scent of the wax.
hmm I like that.
Mm.
Okay. I was thinking about rituals because I mean along the same lines of ceremony. I have this book. It's called Bruja Moderna.
Oh,
Modern
me
witch. Yes.
encanta. Mándamelo.
I love it because she pieces together a bunch of different candles, symbols, gods from different
Mm.
countries, altars, rituals, astrology, tarot. It's just like a
Love
big
it.
book of all the stuff to give you to
Mhm.
dip your toe and get to know things. So there's a section on candles and how you can use candles in different rituals.
Mm.
And one of the things that she mentions is that you can't just use any old candle because it needs to be a candle that was made with intention, that was cleaned, that was um, created in a space that basically was made for ritual or ceremony or somebody
Mm.
that had an intention of purity, right? It can't just be like
Mm.
manufactured from
Love
China.
that.
And so that's we talked about creating some sort of a ceremonial line before.
Mhm.
And I think it's because of that, because I know the intention that you put, the energy that you put into those candles. So I feel safe. And I have used your candles before in rituals, like for the full moon rituals or just
Mm.
intentions I want to set. And it does feel good energetically because I know what went into it, how it was made.
I love that. Thank you. Yes, I feel
Yeah.
that as well when I light my candles. But just using anything that does have that intention and that purity and like the heart put into it. Like it comes from a space of love, right? Like it does sound so cliche, made with love. Some things are though, and some things are not. And I feel like when you use them and you bring them into your space, you get a sense for that. Like the
Yeah.
energy behind it is activated.
hmm Exactly. Yeah, so maybe, I mean, that's your candles could be used, would you say? Like if they wanted to use it for ritual space. And that way the gift it has more meaning because then you're taking a piece of the ritual back home with you and you can create your own rituals after the retreat.
I love that. I used to make, I don't anymore. However, I will mention that they are available for like a custom order. I love doing like baby showers, bridal events, retreats. But you can custom order these in the future. But I used to make these little tea light candles. I don't know if you ever tried those, and they were pure
Yeah.
beeswax. Yeah, I don't think I ever made scented ones. Um, they were popular with a few recurring customers, but just overall, the scented candles did much better. So I did phase them out, but I still get so many requests for them. And I feel like those were so beautiful for ritual. I would get so many videos and pictures from friends and customers who use them for a full moon ritual, or like I had one friend when her daughter started her bleed, she had her first moon and she did like this beautiful like ceremony for her, and she had all the little candles out. Like it was just so beautiful and so symbolic. And obviously one of the comments everyone made was like, I feel so good that these are not like paraffin tea lights from the freaking dollar store, like
Yeah.
it just added to the energy and like, I don't know, the integrity and the containment of that sacred space for them, which I thought was so beautiful. So of course you could use a full size candle for that as well, but I don't know, I thought of those cute little tea lights.
I like that. That's a good idea. I mean, maybe you don't have them as regular retail, but for things like retreats or special events where, yeah, you're gonna need like lots of little ones.
Yeah, I did
Makes
a
sense.
wedding a few months ago now, and that's what the bride wanted. She wanted these cute little tea lights and this little organza bag, and I included a really cute little message that she and her husband wanted to include with a special discount code as well. And I wanted to mention that to you as well. That typically for like a custom order for special events, favors, retreats, whatever it may be, I'll typically include some sort of like a discount code or a special offer
Okay.
for their
Yeah,
guests as well.
that's handy. That comes in handy. Hmm. I'm looking at the questions as I often do when I get stuck. Feeling stuck. Oh,
No.
the packaging because you ship a
Oh,
lot.
yep,
Um, and the packaging is also important, and it's recyclable and compostable, right?
yep. It is from the box to the tape to the inner packaging. Everything is made of paper, and so I'm constantly, as I'm sure you know, as like an entrepreneur, constantly I don't know, revising your method and trying to figure out like either a more efficient or like more beautiful way to do things, right? So it's this constant evolution, especially for me, the packaging. I always think of like the unboxing experience, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
how do I want this beautiful unboxing to look? So it might not be like as beautiful as I would like it to be, but it is all recyclable, compostable, and maintains the integrity of the glass jar, which is a huge priority. Like there's no point in getting this like amazing elaborate thing if your candle is broken. So I do there's a paper box. I use this beautiful like water activated paper tape as well with my logo. It's like really
Oh,
colorful and
wow.
pretty. And then I package each candle in also a compostable or recyclable paper like corrugated box. So it's nice and thick. So that's like nicely tucked in there with lots of like paper filling, all sealed up.
Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about. I think the unboxing experience is really beautiful. And I love how you add in little notes, like special
Yes, there's
notes
handwritten
in
notes.
there.
There is.
Yeah.
It is. It's very cute. I know. I think of like, well, so I used to use that paper shred a while back, and that was very pretty. And I say, gosh, this was like years ago, and I think it was like bright yellow, like beeswax color was the thought behind it. And as I'm saying it, I'm like, gosh, that's so pretty. I should bring that back. But the reality is that it wasn't really doing a whole lot for cushioning,
Mm.
and again, so I'm favoring like that corrugated box and like the cushion and the support and the protection for the Kindle really above anything else. But yeah, that little cute handwritten note is in there every time.
Yeah, I like that. And I think you had like in intentions or like a mantra or Am I
Um,
remembering that correctly?
I don't
Something
know
like
if I ever
that?
did that. Sounds like a thought, like a creative idea I probably had at some point, maybe.
Maybe it was instructions on like how to use the candle and
Yeah.
how to make sure that it doesn't tunnel and
Yes,
things like that.
that's correct. So I include like
Okay.
a little thank you card with information about the business, of course, a little handwritten note on your invoice, just to make sure like you see that you got everything that you ordered. And then in addition to that, I always include a candle care card, specifically because how I mentioned earlier, beeswax is so solid at room temperature. So it does burn a little differently than like a paraffin or a soy candle that most people are used to. That those waxes tend to be a lot softer. So it's a little easier, if you will, for it to get an even burn, and the likelihood of tunneling is less than with beeswax. So I like to include that and just reiterate to people how long you have to let the candle burn so that the melt pool reaches the edges of the jar. So if you burn a beeswax candle for 30 minutes, for example, and your melt pool is like this wide, the odds of your candle tunneling the next few times is quite high. So you want to leave it so that it kind of extends all the way to the ends. And that will be recurring hopefully each time so that you can use your full candle.
Mm-hmm. And how many hours do your candles burn for?
The larger, which are 9 ounces in the glass jar, are typically between 35 and 40 hours. And then the smaller have these like really cute little mini tins. They're in a little tin jar. They're 3.5 ounces, and those burn for about 15 to 18 hours.
Oh, okay. I don't
Yeah,
think
so
I've
it's
seen the
like
tin.
the longevity of the candle is higher as well because it's more solid, so it will typically burn longer than like, conventional candle. The tins are so cute. They're like this little, they're gold. They make great gifts.
Oh,
Like during the holidays, they sell so well. I make this really cute like 3-pack gift box. So you can like mix and match. And for favors specifically, they do really well.
and you ship internationally, right?
I do, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We ship to Mexico.
I know. I know. I need to get some more candles. I don't have any more candles. I think I've burned all of them.
Hmm.
So I am due. Um, I mean, I think we've really touched on everything. Is there something that you would like to share about retreats and candles, or just the work that you're doing at Solstice Natural?
I feel like I have shared most of what's on my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know at this phase or like this stage in my life, especially in candle making, I'm like, there's no other option for me. Like it's either I'm making these candles and this is what I'm using in my home around my family, or I'm going to support another small business who's doing something similar and utilizing really high quality beeswax also. So for anyone who is
Yeah.
planning a retreat, I, would just urge you to just be very mindful. Like I'm sure there's so much awareness and mindfulness and intention around every other detail of the event, right? Like from the food to lodging to daily activities and just nurturing oneself. Like, zoom out and take into account that this will add to the ambiance and contribute to everyone's health and well-being.
Yes, I agree. What about, I mean, as long as you're here, because you've attended retreats too.
Yeah.
I'd love to get your perspective on, I don't know, like, what do you think are some of the most memorable or important things for people who are hosting to focus on to make the experience really amazing
Mm.
for those attending?
Oh, what a good question. What comes to mind is that Colorado retreat that you were on as well. Oh gosh, it was like I don't know, my eyes for some reason are like watering because it was such a beautiful, memorable, like life altering experience. And so there was just magic embedded in it. I really don't know how else to explain that specific experience. I recall we went on this like beautiful hike and it was a group of women. So I feel like that in and of itself created this like magical container. There was like so much awakened intuition and connection and like flow happening. Um,
Mhm.
so I don't know, maybe that's what I'm sort of speaking to, like a lot, like having a framework, but also allowing to like alchemy to somehow happen, because whoever's attending is like creating that space, right? Like it becomes its own entity. Like, okay,
Yeah.
this is the group that's gathered. This is what's transpiring. Like every person here has like a specific like lesson to learn from the other people attending also. So I think that that's really valuable, like creating the container for everyone to share in that capacity. But we went on a hike, I remember, and I don't even think we like had a map with us. I think we like pointed and said, "Gonna go there." Well, this is like in the freaking Rocky Mountains. We're like, we're just gonna go. It was like 8 women. I think some of us had like jeans on. We're like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it was like the most magical, transformative, like just I don't know, amazing experience. So I don't think that really answers your question, but
It does. Yeah.
well, I remember even just like the gathering, like we did like a journaling time. Everyone was like in the kitchen or on the couches, just in like the shared communal space. And I don't know, having intentional moments like that. And on that hike, even, it was like silent meditative hike, I remember. So like there were moments where we were like doing yoga poses and taking pictures and laughing and having great conversation, but there was so much like introspective,
Yeah.
like moments of solitude also.
Hmm. Yeah. I think, I mean, as you were saying that, the way I interpreted it was the moments of silence, but the
Mm.
intentional moments of silence, the moments of let's be together, but on our own,
Yeah.
which was really nice because when we went on the hike, we would maybe like two people would fall back and be having a conversation, but there was this intentional container for just be here, just
Mhm.
observe, just
And
listen.
and in nature, right? Like for me, and I mean, I don't know, I feel like that's a given, but maybe not for everyone. Like for me, that's one of the most powerful tools for, I don't know, like reclaiming oneself or like really listening to oneself and being able to find that peace. So I don't know, I would say like being outside or having a bonfire experience is always such
Did
a
we have a bon? Oh, we did have a bonfire.
transformative experience. I think we did there as well. But I feel like anytime I've been around like a bonfire or right, like a candle
Yeah.
in the kitchen, like
Yeah.
everyone gather around the candle. But yeah, that element of fire, bringing that in, I feel like is always such a potent um, medicine for a gathering, especially a gathering of women like that.
And you just maybe you're I remembered the guitar, like
Oh
fire
yeah.
with music. And my God,
And singing.
he laid it down on his lap and was playing it like this. And I was just like, I mean, maybe it was the cookies that we ate, because we were brought a little bit of that.
There
But I
were
was just
cookies, yes.
mesmerized by, I was just like, oh my God, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
The cookies. Mm.
Cookies. The fire. And then I do remember we all like laid blankets down and we were just like doing kumbaya under the stars. It was
Yeah.
just like so magical, so peaceful.
And it wasn't even like, it wasn't this super luxurious place. It was just a
Mm,
very homey, welcoming environment. And it was, like you said, just being with the elements, just embracing nature in
yeah.
such a pure way.
That's I think part of what I'm saying, right? Like the accommodations don't have to be like glam and lavish. Like yes, pay attention to details regarding accommodations, but it doesn't have to look a certain way. Like there's so many other more meaningful components.